It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories we're watching this Thursday, December 18. Akbayan Party List Congressman Chel Jokno is urging full disclosure of all last-minute changes as the bicameral conference committee concludes its deliberations on the 2026 budget. Jokno warns that secrecy in the process fuels corruption, pork, and patronage, stressing that public funds must serve the people. Meantime, Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson assures the public that safeguards are in place in the proposed budget, including the strict implementation of MyFIP and the monthly oversight of projects. He adds that while the system is not perfect, vigilance against abuse of public funds can help ensure better outcomes in the future. And still on the bicam, the committee has slashed the Public Works Department's budget to 529.6 billion pesos. The cut came after the Senate applied the revised construction materials price data to all 10,000 projects under the agency's budget. Savings of 16.5 billion will go to PhilHealth, while 4.2 billion pesos goes to the NDRRMF. That's the fund of the NDRRMC. Meantime, the Office of Vice President's budget was restored to 889 million pesos, reversing the House-approved cut of 733 million. Church groups are also calling for serious moral scrutiny of the proposed 8.1 billion budget for the NTF-LCAC, the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or the NTF-LCAC. They warned that the allocation, supposedly framed as reward for areas declared as cleared of insurgency, risks turning public funds into political patronage. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon reports that 87 people have been recommended so far for plunder, malversation, graft, and bribery charges in connection with the flood control scandal. The list includes Speaker Martin Romualdez, Senators Jigoy Estrada and Joel Villanueva, and resigned Congressman Zaldico. Romualdez's lawyer, Attorney Ade Fajardo, says that the DPWH recommendation is neither a finding nor a determination of guilt. Meantime, Dizon says the DPWH will launch a massive recruitment in schools starting January next year. He appeals to young engineers and accountants to apply and support reforms within the department. Philippine Fencing Association President Rene Gacuma is accusing Leyte Congressman Richard Gomez of physically and verbally attacking him during the 2025 SEA Games fencing competition on December 16. Gacuma says he may file charges against Gomez. Gomez confirms the confrontation and said he was angry because the top-ranked fencer Alexa Larazabal was replaced by a lower-ranked player. He also accused Gacuma and other PFA officials of bullying Larazabal and said he plans to file a complaint over the matter. And joining us from Parañaque City is the Philippine Star Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Ami, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Ed. Tayong dalawa lang ba? Wala ba yung
muna eh. Wala pa si Tito Ronald eh. Ewan kung ginabi siya kagabi. Nagbantay ba siya ng bicam? O
budget.
May iba siyang ginawa?
Madaling araw na natapos.
I think mga 2:20, thereabouts.
Oo, sobra.
But that was a that was a surprise kasi as of yesterday, at least in the afternoon, we were hearing na parang ang dami pang masyadong parang seemingly insurmountable obstacles for
yes.
for a compromise. Tapos biglang by 2:20, shook.
Oo nga eh.
So ako, I'd like to know the details.
Bakit nagpalabi daw, nagagalit yung iba? Bakit pinabayaan daw? Hindi lang si Vince Dizon, I think at Chu Laurel ba? Na
Francisco?
Nagpalit ng nag-appeal dun sa budget nila, di ba? Yung farm to market roads.
Nagpalit siya ng mga projects.
Bumalik sa 33 billion. Yung closer to the House proposal.
Di ba? It was brought down to 8 billion. You mean they upped it again to 33?
33. 16 billion yung gusto ng Senate. Yung 32 plus yata yung sa House. Ngayon, yung final, 33.
Tumaas pa?
Farm to market roads. So, maraming dyan eh. Titingnan natin. And they have to ratify pa, no? Pero yung bicam, meron ng report eh. At tinitingnan ko nga kung ano yung reaction ni Ping Lacson. Hindi pa natin alam hanggang ngayon kung ano yung special provision safeguards na sinasabi niya dun sa...
The one that he was
My
asking
Fit.
for.
Yeah.
Diba? He was
Diba?
very particular
Yan, saka
about
yung,
that.
yung farm to market. Tapos yung AX, wala na, nakalimutan na lahat. That's a lot of money. 50, how much yung? 56 ba yun? 56
It was
billion?
60? I think it was 60.
Oh, 60.
We'll
kaya
find
nga.
out later. Pero, you know, 60
wala-
yata yun eh.
oh.
Tapos, well, my IFIP is still there. I'd like to know the final figures of my IFIP and the mechanism that was put in place for my IFIP. But then again, Boka, we've been picking on my IFIP, pero we should also be looking at AX
Yun na nga,
more
AX.
and more.
Walang masyadong nagano. Ang ano yan, di ba sinabi sa atin, tama si Dr. Dance doon eh. Yung mga aid na yan, that's for services. That is the right of Filipinos to have. Hindi dapat yung nagbe-beg ka
Hindi yan
from
utang na loob.
politicians. Saka hindi ba din-describe na napakahirap? It can take you 2 days just to apply. Hindi ka pa sigurado kung ma-approve.
Tapos,
Yung ganyang mga
tapos
kahit meron kami emergency.
Tapos kung malapit ka sa kusina, mas mabubusog ka.
Yun na nga, saka sabi niya yung my fifth, hindi naman daw lahat indigent.
So, yeah,
Kapag
hindi ka.
kakilala ni politician, papayagan. And whatever, hindi na-vet nung gobyerno na under the Universal Healthcare Act, merong mga certain treatments na vetted na nila, na covered no PhilHealth, di ba? Pati daw yung hindi kasama sa national formulary. Meaning, yun yung mga approved drugs for distribution and use in the Philippines. Pati daw yung mga drugs na wala doon na pwedeng i-prescribe under my FIP.
I was looking at the MAIFIP program. Yung predecessor niyan is MAIF from 2016.
Yung original.
2016 or 2017. It was only then Medical Assistance for Indigent Fund. So
May siya.
clearly, it was only for the poorest of the poor. By 2021 or 2022, it was expanded into MAIFIP, including na hindi lang yung poorest of the poor, pero anybody who apparently cannot afford some sort of medical
Financially,
attention.
di ba?
Financially incapacitated. In other words,
Incapacitated.
if you can claim na no matter your economic class or economic standing, if you can claim that you are not able to afford the medical treatment, then you are eligible.
Technically, halimbawa, eto lang, technically yan eh. Kung i-apply natin yung description niyan, kung accused corrupt contractor ka or contractor, na frozen yung assets mo, di financially incapacitated ka, di ba?
Okay, ano mo?
Di ba? Pwede ka bang pumasok dyan? Hindi Sinasabi ko lang, anyway, naggagawa tayo ng sarili natin dictionary sa kung ano-anong term eh. Di ba? Ay, yun ang sinasabi ng mga doktor eh. Ay, hindi lang naman daw yung mga pobre nakakapasok.
You submit a medical abstract and then you're ideally you're supposed to undergo assessment as to whether you're able to whether you're really financially incapacitated and so on and right. So it can be very subjective at times depending on who does the guarantee letter.
Oo nga, kaya nga, kino-compare ba yung asset and liabilities dyan? Paano ko yung net worth mo, negative, financially incapacitated ka ba pag ganon? I'm just hindi, kasi nag-nitpicking na rin lang tayo sa mga description eh.
Because that's how they get away with it eh.
Di ba? Kasi pag challenge yan, yung mga nitpicking na yan, magiging issue yan.
So that's as far as MAIFIP is concerned. So clearly may problema yung MAIFIP as far as yung letters of guarantee are concerned. Pero yun nga the bigger, while vulnerable yung MAIFIP to patronage politics, that favorite phrase of ours.
Hindi, it's really patronage kasi politiko nag-a-approve eh.
While that's vulnerable to patronage politics, at least kahit paano, that is for medical use. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo binibigay yung pera diretso doon sa pasyente, idadaan mo siya sa ospital. So kahit paano,
guarantee letter sa ospital.
Kahit paano, meron kang protection of sorts, although it's patronage. Ang problem for other funds like yung AX is its pera.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Di ba? So yun, outright cash out.
Saka lahat yan. Lahat covered, lahat yan.
Anything
Yung tinatawag natin KBL, di ba? Kasal,
anything that falls
binyag,
under
ilibing.
crisis.
And many, many others. Di ba? Kaya pag nakatanggap ka ng mga yung mga REIT, kapag merong mga burol,
Ay, oo.
that's where your taxes go.
Hindi mura yung mga yun,
Oo, talaga. Mga umaabot na 5,000 yun, yung
Tapos
mga ganda.
pabonggahan yun.
Oo. Yan. Saka yung mga pinadadalang tarpulin kapag may piyesta, that is where your taxes go.
So those things are still in the budget. I wonder lang what
At
yeah.
unprogrammed appropriations approved. Binalik yung yung sa House.
How much is that does that amount to now?
Ito yung yung unprogrammed, teka lang ha. Kapapasok lang nung yun eh. Wala sa akin, kapapasok lang hindi ko na-ilista dito. Pero pumasok yung unprogrammed appropriations. 200 plus billion. Tingnan mo.
Di ba earlier there
200 plus billion.
But earlier there was talk na na it would be limited
Matanggalan,
to
di ba yung nasabi ng Senate, no unprogrammed appropriations except yung 3 lang na maliit lang.
like for example foreign assisted projects.
Yan.
Ano pa ba?
Nakalimutan ko yung 3. Pero ngayon binalik yung in-approve ng House.
Military
At
modernization.
tinaasan ng konti. Tinaasan ng konti from what was approved by the House. Hindi ko lang nailista dito exact figures.
Ay, Ami, foreign assisted projects, military modernization, and one more. I forget lang kung ano yung pangatlo na sabi mo.
Buti hindi nagreklamo yung military, no? Yung modernization nila. Unprogrammed.
Unprogrammed. So yun, these are things we need to look into, and that's what that's what we'll be talking about with our guest in a few minutes. We're bringing in one of the NGOs or civil society organizations that have been standing guard over the budget deliberations in the bicam. They've earlier raised red flags dun sa mga mga provisions ng NEP as passed by the House and Congress. Let's see what they think of what was finally passed by the BICAM committee in its report.
Nandiyan na ba?
Wala pa ata I don't see.
Kasi yung BICAM, no, hindi ba ni live stream? Pero yung actual horse trading, hindi live stream eh.
Kasi naman don't call it
Diba?
horse trading. Call it
Negotiation.
consensus building.
Deliberation.
Call it consensus
diba?
building naman. Pagandahin mo naman ng konti. PICC yan.
Diba? Kaya nga, tumabi rin sila, nawala din sila. Di rin natin nakita. At saka yung mga observer, merong mga observer, di ba? Nakapasok ba sila dun sa it's actually closed door di ba?
Yeah,
And tagal-tagal nun, mas matagal yata, 4 na oras yata yung ganun na
clearly there were
na hindi naka-live stream.
Clearly, there were a lot of negotiations going on behind closed doors. Kasi ang daming araw nga na puro late ang start ng BICAM because they had to resolve certain issues before they resume the BICAM conference.
Hindi nga ba yun ang gusto nating makita?
Well, that is the irony nga.
Yung discussion nila.
The
Parang yung
BICAM,
sa ICI yan Di ba? Magla-live stream ka tapos lahat i-executive session mo. Kaya total ngayon, they made themselves irrelevant Walang nakakamiss sa kanila ngayon Di ba? Kahit sinasabi ipi-phase out na kayo, wala nang, yung mga tao hindi na nagrereklamo. Hindi sila hinahanap Ano bang mapapala? Inaasahan mo makikita mo lahat. Wala naman tayo nakikita. May nakita na ba tayo?
Well, remember, the BICAM's purpose is precisely nga to reconcile differing versions of the House
Yun ang
and the
gusto
Senate.
natin makita, di ba? The reconciliation.
But in trying to reconcile the differing versions, they go into executive session. Then
Kaya nga.
that's the BICAM of the
Outside
BICAM.
pa rin tayo. Outside ako lambu pa rin tayo.
Okay, Ami, our guest is here today. Our guest is here already. Our guest for today is Mr. Patrick Akupan ng People's Budget Coalition. He is also a member of the Right to Know Right Now Coalition and a convener of the FOI Youth Initiative. Welcome to Storycon, Patrick, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Patrick.
Good afternoon po, and thank you for having us on your program.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. Sir, well, of course, we don't. ideally, we wouldn't want to have to go through what's that? Yung reenacted budget. That would not be ideal. Pero parang bigla natapos kagabi. And that's just a few hours after all this talk na parang ang daming apparently unsurmountable differences between the two versions. And the red flags that your group has been raising all this time. So, let me start off with that, sir. With what you know from the bicam results so far, are there still red flags that you can see doon sa napagkasunduan nila kagabi?
Okay, sir. So first off, if there's a win that we have been celebrating with this bicam series, is that first there has been a live streaming. So in fact, that there could be some more improvements to that. Well, there's always a start to that, and we're grateful that at least we are coming up from real observations of what's happening on the floor, despite some comments that there are instances that they would be going on mute, and they would be assembling on side caucuses without really knowing what's the topic being discussed. So that's something that we can really comment on at this point, but having a live stream at this point is already good. And the second thing that we want to celebrate is that at least we are not looking at the reenacted budget for this year. So we go to the red flags that we see. So even if there has been a seeming rush in completing the bicam process yesterday, there has been some instances that red flags are still there in the budget, and we would like to point out that these red flags are really based on patronage-based way of delivering services, and most especially in terms of how we target beneficiaries for ayuda programs. So doon po nagpo-focus karamihan ng red flags na nakikita natin so far.
Sir, I suppose you're referring to MAIFIP, AIX, TUPAD, and all those wonderful wonderful funds that amount to billions that are left to our politicians to determine who the beneficiaries are. Pero kasi when we were talking to Ping Lacson earlier, sabi ni Ping na na tanggalin yung letter of guarantee na yan, tanggalin yung patronage politics na yan. Okay lang magbigay ng benepisyo o ng tulong pinansyal sa taong bayan, pero wag idadaan sa politiko. I'm wondering lang, as you have seen so far, or if you're aware so far, kung ano yung final version na ipasa as far as MAIFIP, AIX, TUPAD, at are they still vulnerable to patronage politics?
Well, definitely, sir, because what we are advocating for is there should be a rules-based way of determining who gets actually to benefit. Because one thing that we have observed from the live streaming is that when these bicam panel members are defending the budget, they do make a case for why it's needed. And we do not disagree on that. Totoo namang kailangan ang ayuda para sa mga hirap at mga nangangailangan. Hindi po natin iyon dinidiscount. But the problem comes from the discretionary way that it is being spent or distributed. And at that point, palaki ang role ng ating mga politicians, because first, they have the budget and the systems allow it to be discretionary, meaning they can choose what districts or what areas get to be given a certain amount, and ultimately perhaps who gets what and for what amount. So that's the first level of red flag that we see if there's no prevailing rules-based way of targeting our beneficiaries. And of course, why not? It's to their benefit. So if they are seen participating in payouts and distributions, then of course, it's a natural response for the beneficiary to feel grateful at the very least. But that's what we are trying to avoid na po sana.
Ami?
Mr. Akupan, I'm just curious kung paano naging participation ng civil society. Alam namin kung ano ginawa ninyo sa house eh. But during the bicam, how did you participate? Saka, pwede ba kayo magtaas ng para sa classroom? Pwede ba kami mag-comment? Meron bang ganun doon?
No, raise your hand.
Right. Sige po. So, pagdating naman sa bicam, what we are really supporting is a principle of the idea of an open bicam. But with an open bicam, it would then really just equate to, dahil lang naka-live stream doesn't mean that the bicam is open. So by opening the bicam and by observing the all the days that the bicam has been conducted in the past few days, yung mga side caucuses na hindi natin alam kung anong pinag-uusapan, small committee meetings happening before those BICAM sessions, the documents still, for instance, what we see on the BICAM are budget comparisons of the House version. The Senate version is not even presented there. There's just a column that shows the approved 2026 BICAM figures opposite or against the HGAP version. So by opening the BICAM, it would also mean that you open the documents, you open the records, you open communication lines, and let the people know and let people in. And as we witnessed this in the budget, we see that it is possible not just for the budget, no. So we know that BICAM is necessary for all kinds of law. And the budget bicameral conference has proven to be a very good case that we can start on and build on.
Kasi ilang beses sinuspindi yung live stream ng BICAM eh. Nung hindi nakasuspinde and they were in a huddle, nakakarinig ba kayo? Nakaka-observe ba kayo? Yung civil society?
Actually, very limited, and that's already saying that our coalitions already have formed networks from trusted sources and people within the organizations, and even to some BICAM members whom we help shape the budget process. And we still have no much information about what's going on in the background. And one possibility is that it's just really a lot to process, a lot to take in, and the work is just big for everyone. And but our engagement overall in the monitoring the BICAM has been like everyone else. It's monitoring from the live stream. So we make sure that we divide the work. The way that we operate, at least in the People's Budget Coalition, we have organizations representing different causes and sectors. And we would be monitoring agency budgets that are relevant to our interests and to our stakeholders. So very limited to monitoring yung aming naging participation sa Open BICAM.
Patrick, let me just
So
see.
closed door siya, no? Closed door? Bali, closed door talaga siya actually. Nung sinuspindi live stream, nag-closed door session sila.
Patrick,
Okay.
let me see lang if I got this correctly. Tell me if kung tama intindi ko. So you're saying it's a good start. At least as far as transparency is concerned in the BICAM, it's a good start, pero hindi pa siya lubos kasi parang kung tama intindi ko sa'yo, may mga side caucuses na hindi mo alam na pag-uusapan. Merong mga small meetings before the session na sila nag-uusap. So you don't exactly know kung merong parang small committee meeting ongoing at the side and so on down the line. Because you're only limited right now dun sa kung ano lumalabas dun sa live stream.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So at this point, we don't really want to put forward any assumptions because we don't know if what they are saying behind closed doors and with muted microphones. But it opens a lot of possibilities and maybe skepticism for the untrusting public. We know why, and for very clear reasons that we have to monitor the budget all the more now na nangyayari to. And that's correct. We celebrate what's good. We take credit. We give them the credit for doing this, at least for this year na meron tayong live stream. Pero maiwasan pa po sana kasi I don't think that it's in the interest of the participating panel members. So by being in the panel, of course they stake their reputation. They go on record to make a case for their budgets. So they are willingly submitting to that accountability, and having a live stream could be a good evidence if we get to that point later on. Hopefully not. No, so yung mga side caucuses sana wala ng small committee meetings, etc. We must make it open, and that's in the interest of the Filipino people. Kasi we know how important trust is for a health institution to succeed.
Okay. Tapos, kung balikan ko lang yung earlier red flags that we were talking about, specifically yung ayuda type of funds that we were discussing that are distributed in a very discretionary way, at least in the past. would you know already by this time kung nalagyan na nga ng safeguards itong mga paglabas ng pondong ito? Again, going back to my FIP, X, and Tupad. Kasi, yun nga, when we were talking to Ping Lacson earlier, he was saying na dapat lagyan ng special provisions yan para hindi gawing gatasan ang mga politiko for patronage. I don't know kung ano yung final na nailabas ng bicam dun sa mga pondong ito Would you know kung merong nailagay na safeguards to prevent patronage politics in the distribution of these funds? These are controversial funds, di ba? I mean, from the very start, you flagged them already.
Soft pork.
Soft pork, yeah.
Tawag nila.
Soft pork, that's correct po. So in terms of the safeguards, actually, if we have something to hold on to, it is those kinds of pronouncements pa lang, if I would be very candid about that. So we've been hearing that they would be institutionalizing regulations to make sure that it will not be prone to abuse. But until these are actually in place, we can't really say so much. If I would be able to give an example, although this is not in the form of ayuda, one discussion has been about establishing an oversight function or mechanism for civil society observers in the implementation of farm-to-market roads. So this manifestation was brought up by Senator Kiko Pangilinan in the agency budget for the Department of Agriculture. So there he stressed that the civil society would be able to monitor through online dashboards how FMR projects are being executed and implemented, and they would be relying on specific geographic coordinates to be able to track actual project completion. Those are examples, but in terms of the policies in place, we still look at that there should be a sort of institutionalizing rules-based approach so that abuses will be prevented.
Pero in-approve ba yun ng BICAM? Yung oversight na yun?
Ng CSOs?
It's something that should come after po the budget. So if there is a provision within the budget, and as to the final implementing rules, or what does it look like actually, or who can participate, or what are the frameworks exactly, I'm not sure if there has been a detailed conversation about that yet.
Kasi pati Malacanang sinasabi, the politicians will have no say in my FIP, ganun-ganun. Kaya hindi namin alam kung ano yung safeguards na nilagay dyan. Para ma-actualize nga yung sinasabi niya ng Malacanang na no politics.
Yeah.
Would you know, kayo? Dahil kayo dapat ang makakasasabihan nila, di ba, kung sakasakali?
We haven't really gone into, at least in meetings that I have attended, we have not gone into that sort of detail yet. But we'll, of course, see it through po that. And thank you for reminding us about that. And which stresses the point that safeguards are very important. But if, we have a clean budget that's, at least where we can prevent such abuses, then it would be good if safeguards would be irrelevant. After all, that's what we want. We don't really have to fear about how our taxes are being used. So it really depends on how the budget looks like. And with the current form of the budget, I feel like if safeguards, if you are to talk about safeguards, then it should be an urgent call for the legislators to bring up.
Yung unprogrammed appropriations, ano na pagkasunduan doon finally? Would you know kung ano yung what was agreed on in black and white, and if there were any special provisions put in dun sa unprogrammed appropriations?
Yeah, so with unprogrammed appropriations, in our monitoring, we tag this as a red flag, and we call this as a shadow pork. So we know for sure that since 2022, Congress has used the unprogrammed appropriations to fund items that are beyond what is proposed in the president's budget, and it's a concerning pattern. So with the BICAM, at the approved version, they have approved the House proposal that amounts to 243 billion pesos against the Senate version that amounts to 174.
Okay. Pero ang inapprove ng BICAM yung ano daw, yung House version.
Yung House version.
at tinaasan pa daw ng konti. Pero may isa pa daw kakaiba ngayon during the bicam, pinayagan yung two agencies, executive, na mag-appeal na baguhin yung proposal nilang budget. What do you think of that? Unang-una si Vince Dizon, who didn't get what he wanted, at si Francis Chu Laurel, who got what he wanted, 33 billion yung kanyang Anong tingin nyo doon? Is that a red flag?
We've been monitoring that, and yung nature po nung parang submission, you mentioned about Secretary Kiko Laurel submitting a letter. He was proposing the new list of parang projects under the FMR. Oo. And what we feel like is the purpose of the BICAM is just to consolidate and agree on the disagreeing figures of both versions. And our position on that is if that's the purpose of the BICAM, then there shouldn't be any other change, whether it would be about that list that the Secretary is forwarding or the adjusted costing from the DPWH given new assumptions on raw material cost. So it would just really complicate the process, and these are things that should have been discussed early on when they were given the time to defend their budgets in the Senate and the House. So we feel like it would really just allow further that would allow it to happen in further occasions and other budget cycles, even if there has been a strong statements from Senator Noren Legarda that it shouldn't be the practice. But if they allow it at this point, then I would have appreciated that they stood their ground, that such should not be tolerated.
Mm-hmm. And that's quite unusual kasi to begin with, this is supposed to be a time of budget reform and transparency. Tapos for the first time, you're having cabinet secretaries making renewed pushes in the BICAM, not in the committee level.
Executive insertion.
Oh.
Sabi ng mga executive insertion yan.
Kung kailan nagreforma dapat dun sa sa budgeting process, saka nagkaroon ng ganyang pagkakaiba at kakaibang pagsisingit.
Oo.
Yeah. Actually, even the appearance of Secretary Vince Dizon in one of the BICAM sessions, it's been also a surprise for me as a budget monitor. So, why is he there in the first place? Why I had to ask really the colleagues, is this okay? Is this allowed? That secretaries could attend as resource persons, but the bigger implication to that is we fear that they might be, by those interventions, they might be putting in unnecessary disruption the process because it's a new data, and if we are dealing with a very limited time such as the BICAM, I don't think that they could get into the right amount of energy and rigor to really consider it objectively without given the time and the appropriate and accurate information to evaluate it against the new proposal. So it just complicates the process, and we really wanted it not to persist in the next BICAM.
Tsaka talagang replacement of projects in of all places, the BICAM. Magpapalit ka ng mga proyekto.
Yeah.
Kaya nga. Sige, first time lang naman to, no? At saka tayo, nanonood lang tayo, beggars can't be choosers. Pero by way of transparency, ano pa ang hope nyo lang, total, to ngayon, Merry Christmas ngayon Ano yung mga wish nyo para maging more transparent kung itutuloy pa rin to next BICAM? Ano yung mga gusto nyo makita?
Sobrang mahirap pong umpisahan, pero dahil sobrang komplikado, yung unang-una po talaga, wala ito yung binigay na budget, ito yung inapproval. So may mga babantayan pa actually post-BICAM. So I believe na pag-usapan po yata ito. Pero assuming that the budget is passed as of last night's version, we could start really by looking into the details of the contracts. The procurement is really something that we should all be putting our heads together and thinking of a way to make it really transparent, na walang makalusot. How do vested interests get in the way of politicians bagging big ticket projects under our eyes? How is one owner able to compete against his or her own companies for a big ticket infrastructure project. So those things might be difficult for us to monitor if there's not real access to information. And this is where the advocacy of freedom of information comes in the work that we do in the Right to Know Coalition and FOI initiative. No, so really bantayan yung procurement. Tapos dahil on record so naka-livestream sila nung bicam. Kasi sinilin talaga, we will be able to get spliced recordings of whatever they said, that there would be safeguards, there would be ways for the citizens to see what is going on with the budget. We'll hold them accountable to it. No, so this is something that not only a certain organization can do on its own, and we hope that the public would really learn the lessons, the painful lessons that we learned the last year.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Patrick Akupan of the People's Budget Coalition. Thank you for joining us.
Maraming
Thank you,
salamat din.
Mr. Akupan.
And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a break. We'll be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
You got the helping news in the stories behind headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao, and of course with us, aming pamintuan ng Philippine Star. From the Senate, let's get updates on the DPWH's year-end media conference earlier today. We have Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos. Arles, kamusta dyan?
Bok, at amin ngayong araw nga isinagawa yung press conference ni Secretary Vincizon patungkol doon sa kanyang 3 buwan at kalahati na pananatili bilang kalihim ng Department of Public Works and Highways. Ayon sa kanya, mahirap daw itong kanyang kinakaharap na responsibilidad at sa kabila niyan kailangan daw ito at simula pa lamang ng ninanais na reforma ng administrasyon para sa ahensya. Sa press conference ngayong umaga, ipinresenta niya ang mga hakbang at tugon ng ahensya sa gumugulong na investigasyon hinggil sa mga manawalang flood control issue sa bansa. Gaya na lamang ng pagpapanagot sa mga dapat managot at sa bilang, umabot na raw sa 87 na individual ang inirekomenda ng kasuhan ng plunder, malversation, graft at bribery at iba pang mga kaso. Kasama dyan ang ilang mambabatas, gaya nila dating House Speaker Martin Romualdez, Senators Jinggoy at Joel Villanueva, dating Senador Bong Revilla, resigned Congressman Zaldico, at iba pang dati at kasalukuyang opisyal ng pamahalaan. Samantala, 9 na personalidad naman ang naaresto na, habang 23 individual ang may kaso na sa korte. Gate ni Dizon, hindi lamang ito maliliit na isda, at ipagpapatuloy pa daw nila ang kanilang investigasyon, pati ang tuloy-tuloy na case recommendation at referral sa Office of the Ombudsman at sa iba pang korte ng bansa. Maaari rin daw na bago matapos ang taon, may 1 o 2 pa na referral ang Ombudsman sa Sandigan Bayan bago matapos ang taon. Bukod pa dyan, plano rin ng DPWH na magkaroon nga ng mass recruitment sa mga young engineers at mga accountant para sa pagnanais or with the hopes na magkaroon nga ng reforma sa DPWH. Ito daw yung parang mga aasahan na advok na mga hindi basta-basta na makukurap kagaya ng mga nakita raw natin sa iba't ibang mga district engineer at regional engineers na ngayon nga nahahabla na sa mga anomalya ng flood control scandal sa ating bansa.
Mm-hmm. Alam mo, Arles, parang tanda ko, yan din ang ginawa ni Babe Singson nung pumasok siya as DPWH. He opened the doors, di ba, Ami? Parang he opened the doors of DPWH
More than 87, yeah.
Oo. He opened the doors of DPWH to young engineers who might want to join the department para mabigyan ng bagong dugo yung DPWH. Pero yun nga, that was in 2010 pa.
Pinagtatanggal nga niya, di ba? Sabi niya, di ba, tinanong natin?
Oo.
Dinimanda ka ba? Sabi niya, I don't care. Sabi niya.
Nagtanggal siya ng mga luma, nagpaso siya ng mga bago. Pero yun nga, after 15 years, baka yung mga bago dati, baka...
Kalakaran.
Baka I don't know, baka...
ng kalakaran.
Baka na...
That's a lot of money Arles, may nabanggit ba siya? Kasi lagi niyang sinasabi, may makukulong before Christmas He's one of the officials na sinasabi yon. May update ba siya ron? Magpapasko na, 1 week na lang.
Kahapon amin, nasagot yan ni Zach Dizon, no, doon sa ibang press conference, no, sa joint press con ng MMDA, DOTR at DPWH para sa rehab. Ayon sa kanya, hindi pa naman daw natatapos ang taon. At ayon sa ombudsman, maaari nga na meron pa, no? Maaari pa rin daw yan asahan, though it's still on the call ng ombudsman, no, kung ano yung magiging hakbang nila dyan. Pero konting sundot lang tayo ulit doon sa massive recruitment na plano, no? 2,000 vacant positions kasi yung may puwang ngayon sa DPWH. And kung mapupunan daw ito, magiging malaki nga, no, yung iaambag ng mga bagong hires nila, no. At ayon pa sa kanila, ito daw yung paraan nila talaga para mapaayos nga yung sistema ng DPWH. Kaya magkakaroon sila ng ilang mga hiring or job mismo, no, job fairs sa mga university, and after that yung mga bukod sa job fair, magkakaroon din sila ng mga talk, no, para anyayahan pa yung mga estudyante, yung mga bagong graduates na magtrabaho sa ahensya.
Arles, competitive ba yung ano? Kasi baka tanungin ng ibang bata dyan, sabihin, magkakaroon din ba kami ng gano'n, yung billion-billion yung nakita namin sa ano?
Yung pwede ka magkasino ng kalahating bilyong piso.
Baka yun ang inaasahan nila, gano'ng kalaki kikitain nila.
Kasama ba yun sa package of benefits?
Sa package of benefits book, at least, sabi naman ni Sec Dizon, competitive naman daw yung entry-level salary na, no, sa gobyerno ngayon. Hindi natin nakuha yung exact figures, but at least daw, para sa mga entry-level, malaki na daw yung sahod na kikitain ng mga ito.
If I remember correctly, yung district engineer, yung level ni Henry Alcantara, that should be around 130,000, 140,000 per year. Parang ASEC, di ba? Parang ganun ASEC.
Pero pag engineer ka at ganyang level mo at nasa private sector ka, mas malaki kinikita mo.
That's also true. Oo. Although, Arles, curious din ako, 2,000 pala hinahanap nilang tauhan ng DPWH. Hindi naman ganun karaming tinanggal ni Vince Dizon magmula nung mag-shake up sila ng DPWH di ba? Ilan pa lang tinatanggal talaga ng DPWH. So, all this time pala, ganun karami
baka
ang
talagang kulang
bungi.
sila.
Oo. Ang pagkabungi ng DPWH. Ibig sabihin, hindi na iengganyo yung mga taong mag-apply at sumama sa DPWH considering yung...
Nandun sa Middle East yung skilled workers
considering yung package of benefits na unwritten.
Naka-OFW yung mga skilled workers natin.
Actually daw, baka nga mas malaki talaga yung sahod abroad, Ami, no? Pero ito yung mga vacant position kasi ito yung pangako, ito yung nabanggit ni Secretary Vince Dizon nung nag-assume siya, no, sa opisina. Ito yung parang gusto niya nga punan, no, ng mga deserving employees. Yun yung mga job order, ipupush na i-prioritize yung mga contractual or job order na magkaroon ng mas mataas pa, no, ng mga plantilla. Pero doon sa mga inalis na posisyon, at least on the record, meron na daw na 90 na mga DPWH personnel sa iba't ibang posisyon at iba't ibang opisina na either suspended na o ngayon nasampahan na ng ilang mga administratibo na kaso, at halo-halo yan, no, merong mga district engineer at meron din na iba pang mga opisyal, but nagpapatuloy pa din daw at yung iba is still under investigation.
Okay, maraming salamat. Mojo Arles de los Santos reporting from the Senate. And now let's bring in...
Thank you, Arles.
Thank you, Arles. Let's now bring in our Mojo, si Merrimon Reyes, who covered the bicam hanggang alas 2:30 yata ng madaling araw. Merrimon, ayan, kamusta ka dyan?
Merrimon, may aibag ka na, Merrimon, sa pagpupuyat.
Oo nga, alas 4 ng madaling araw kanina ako nakauwi. Kasi though pwede naman na akong mag-monitor, pero kasi ang sabi talaga dito from the House and the Senate, target nilang matapos. Kaya sabi ko, sige, antabayanan natin. And true to their word, 2:22 a.m. opisyal nang isinara ang bicam. At nag-conclude ang lahat, even doon sa budget ng DPWH. Though, yung final numbers, kasi ang nasabi sa atin ng staff ni Finance Committee Chair Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, binabalanse pa raw nila at inaayos nila yung matrices. Kaya yung specific numbers or changes talaga, inaantabayanan natin. Pero on the case ng yung ni-request or inapila ni DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon na pagbabalik ng over 45 billion pesos sa scrap budget nila, ang nasabi dito ni Senator Win sa bicam, nakita nila na ang magiging savings based doon sa application ng construction materials price data nila is 20.7 billion pesos. So ang ginawa nila dito, inalat nila 16.5 sa PhilHealth, Natuwa dyan si Senator Lori Legarda kasi pareho from the House at the Senate yun yung gusto nilang mangyari. And then 4.2 sa NDREAM Fund or yung NDRRM Fund. So yan plus yung for the others, mukhang nagkaroon na ng reconciliation pero ang natitira sa timeline nila nausog. Imbes na December 22 yung ratification, ang nakikita nila by December 28 or 29 and then basta bago mag-New Year, December 29 ng hapon, tatransmit na kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos and hopefully mapirmahan na. Pero ang sinabi dito ni Senwin plus ni House Committee on Appropriations Chair, Congresswoman Mika Swansing, they can confidently say na wala raw maging reenacted budget dahil natapos na rin ang bicam and confident din daw sila na wala raw mavivito ang Pangulo sa budget.
Pero Merimon, yung pork chop funds, yung you know what I mean?
Soft pork.
Yung mga soft pork.
Pinalambot na pork.
Remember that was the bone of contention among a lot of senators.
Yes.
Most especially the need for safeguards. Ang tawag doon ni Ping Lacson are special provisions. We're wondering lang kung anong nailagay dyan sa bicam that would guarantee na hindi ito magiging source of patronage.
Oo, kanina naglabas din ng pahayag si Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson at binigyan niya ng thumbs up at proud daw siya sa Senate bicam conferees from the beginning to end. Binibigyan niya ng thumbs up itong Senado at ang sinasabi niya hanggat yung safeguards daw at yung commitment sa transparency at yung pagsisiguro raw na yung budget na ito ay nirepaso at hindi raw magagamit sa mali, tiwala raw siya at umaasa si Senator Ping na makapagbibigay ng positive change yung panukalang pondo. Yung safeguards na inaasahan na panghahawakan daw at paninindigan sa mga susunod na taon, una, walang guarantee letters na iaalaw, yung any form daw ng EPAL sa lahat ng ayudas, yung maifip, 51 billion pesos, wala pa tayong nakukuha ang final info kung tatanggalin o mababawasan kasi so far approved siya sa bicam. Pero ang safeguard dito, i-implement siya sa ilalim ng at alinsunod sa Universal Healthcare Program at UHC Law. Next naman, meron silang monthly oversight na nasuggest din ni Senator Lori Legarda para makita nila yung way forward at yung implementasyon talaga ng nagmula sa bicam. So monthly may oversight meetings na rin itong mga kongresista at senador. And yung isa pa, yung sa transparency portals at paglalagay ng mga grid coordinates sa mga infra projects para raw masiguro na mga kawani ng media, mga civil society organizations o kahit mga ordinaryong Pilipino, mamamatsyag daw itong mga pending na infra projects.
Para Clara,
So in so many words, hindi pa papapalin yung mga politiko. Tama ba yun?
Oo, yan yung titingnan natin. Yung pinakabilangan kung okay ba ang mga senador o mga kongresista, makikita natin yan sa ratification. Natanong kasi natin kaninang umaga, itong si Senwin tsaka si Kong Mika, kung gaano ba sila kakampante, napipirma o okay na para sa dalawang counterparts sa dalawang chamber itong panukalang pondo. Ang sabi ni Senwin, yung mga magiging opinion daw o masasabi tungkol doon sa mga AIC, sa GIP, yung sa unprogrammed appropriations, kanya-kanya raw talaga yan Basta ang sigurado daw sila dito sa kinalabasan ng bicam, yung pondo daw, ang makikinabang daw dyan, ang taong bayan. Kaya even doon sa unprogrammed appropriations, natanong din niya na Senator Erwin kanina kasi mabilis din na naisapasa or naging approved na yung unprogrammed appropriations, 243 billion pesos pareho siya sa House tsaka sa Senate. Pero ang nilinaw dito ni Senwin, sa version din nila, is tinanggal nila yung allocation sa SAGIP. Lahat merong patutunguhan daw, kaya walang makikinabang para sa flood control, wala raw mapupunta sa mga tulay, wala raw mapupunta sa mga infra projects. Kaya yun, yung isang na-resolve na rin nila. Though may nakita tayo, especially si Representative Chel Jokno, parang nabanggit niya ulit yung unprogrammed appropriations, pero we are yet to hear a comment in return mula sa Senado.
Walang EPAL ha. Alam naman natin na pupunta yan sa taong bayan. Pero yung EPAL, yun na nga. Meron ba? Yun yung nirereklamo ni Ping Lacson.
Yun, isa kaya ang nakalagay sa mga safeguard, walang guarantee letters na raw na iaalaw. Tapos yung implementasyon nito dapat under the UHC program, UHC law. Pero then again,
Agency.
Yes, agency na siya, Kaya ang titingnan din natin dito, nagbigay naman ng thumbs up, mukhang maganda ang feedback for Senator Ping. Yun nga lang, malalaman natin sa pirmahan at ratification.
Pero meron mo
May isa pa dyan na hindi ba? Yung hindi daw, yung unprecedented, hindi, tinatanong nila kung baka mag-institutionalize. Yung pinaharap nga yung mga executive, yung cabinet members. Bakit ganun daw? Executive insertion daw yon. Papayagan na ba yan? Institutionalized na ba yan? O medyo pinagbigyan lang ngayon?
Ami, ito yata yung tungkol doon sa case ng Department of Agriculture, pati
Farm
doon
to
sa
Market Roads.
Department of Transportation. Ang nangyari kasi doon sa DA, according to Senator Kiko Pangilinan, yung unang listahan na inaprubahan nila ng mga proyekto, yung mga farm to market roads na amounting to 33 billion pesos, pagkatapos daw ng approval na yun, may pinadala si DA Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel ng listahan ng mga proyekto na worth 8.9 billion pesos na gusto sanang palitan yung mga proyekto dun sa naunang listahan na 8.9 billion pesos din ang worth. So, yaan. Tapos doon naman sa Department of Transportation, may nire-request na 3.6 billion pesos na support fund para doon sa Cavite LRT extension nito, sa common station, pati yung sa automated na fare collection system nila. Yung ginawa doon sa DOTR, nag-realign sila ng pondo within the agency. Dito sa DA, yan, uminit yung ulo ni Senator Lore Legarda na bakit may last minute request, dapat daw nagawa na yan before the bicam, before the plenary budget debates. Pero ito yung mga excuses na nakuha. On the case of the Department of Agriculture, sa listahan ng 8.9 billion pesos, yung unang listahan daw na naipasa at naisapasa or na-approve sa bicam, wala raw approval ni Secretary Chu Laurel dahil on official medical leave. Kaya yung update, yung binigay pa na listahan, yun na raw yung mas pinili talaga mga proyekto na ready for implementation na gustong ipalit lang doon sa ibang nilalaman ng unang listahan. Doon naman sa case nung sa DOTR, ang naging reason naman dito ni Secretary Lopez was yung hinihintay daw nila kasi yung pag-aasikaso ng Light Rail Management Corporation sa ilang mga requirements. Kaya until nung BICAM, nung na-bring up, wala pa raw yun. So, kaya medyo nagkaroon ng delay sa pag-forward ng request nila. Pero yun yung sinasabi ni Senator Lore Legarda, sana raw maging lesson daw ito sa mga ahensya na mag-prepare daw beforehand at pwede naman daw a year, aralin na raw nila, magtansya na raw sila para hindi raw magkakagulatan ng ganito dahil baka mamihasa raw sa mga bicam na susunod.
Meron man ako, very quickly lang, I understand what you mean na wala ng guarantee letters dapat dito sa pinagdesisyon nila sa BICAM. Wala lang kaya. Pero baka mamaya naman, it's a matter of semantics. Baka mamaya it's a technical matter. The question would be, dadaan pa ba sa politiko ang endorsements at pagbibigay ng kasi baka mamaya, tanggalin nila yung guarantee letter, ibang pangalan ilagay. Baka wala ng guarantee letter, wala ng GL, meron ng letter of guarantee,
Pupunta pa rin
LOG.
sa office nila.
Diba?
Oo, tama po.
You know what I mean?
Tama.
You get what I mean, di ba? In the end, if you still have to go to the politician to get his endorsement, that's the same banana.
Bok, meron pang ang na-open pa nga sa BICAM na yung 51 billion pesos kapag natapyasan pa raw, mga around 1 million beneficiaries daw maapektuhan dito. So far, yung naging consensus kasi ng approval nung maifip, nandyan pa siya. Pero yung dahil nga here and there, meron pang mga komento, yun yung inaabangan natin sa final BICAM report. And kaya ma-adjust din yung legislative calendar. So ngayon, by next week Monday, yun yung supposed day ng ratification. Pero ngayon, inaayos na rin ng technical staff ng House tsaka ng Senate yung pinal na kalalabasan ng BICAM. Especially doon sa mga here and there na kailangan pang i-resolve.
Okay. Okay, maraming salamat. Mobile Journal, Mary Monreyes, sana makatulog ka na.
Thank you, Mary Mon. Pahinga ka na.
Ating masipag na mojo, si Mary Monreyes. O, di ba, Ami?
Oo nga
Nag-report pa sa amin kagabi yan sa tonight, sa Frontline Tonight.
Ay, alas 4 na madaling araw. Oo.
Pero bright na bright pa rin ang mata niya. Parang nakapagkape na ako. Okay, good na tayo. Well, thank you for joining Storycon today. Ami Pamintuan, ang bossing ng Philippine Star. Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Ed Lingao. Kapatid, we are one news, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.